Hello, Doctor Who fans, and welcome to another amazing, slightly demonic episode of Who Corner to Corner. I'm Paul, and I'm joined by my good friend Jeff, and also by our very good friend Mr. Al Dewar from Character Options. We are going to be sitting here.
Good evening.
Look at him all dressed up there.
With the voice, shouldn't I?
You should, yeah. You should. You need to wear the Third Doctor kind of garb as well, really. But we do appreciate the hat. The hat looks amazing.
I can rock a frilly jacket as well as John.
Anyone can rock a frilly jacket, Joe. It's the wearing and the bearing that really counts.
Oh, yeah.
Pertwee pretensions notwithstanding, we are here. We're going to watch actually the Demons in this episode. That classic 1970s something or other episode, 19th of June 1971. There you go. That's when the first episode airs. I've just got it on my little computer over here, so I can have a look. So we're going to watch the first couple of episodes of this. Hopefully, we are going to commentate our way through it with a general kind of chit chat and bants and whatnot and what have you. We may even start discussing a few character options things, because there is a brand new Third Doctor Vortex set. Look at that. Jeff is lifting it up. I've got my sonic screwdriver, and on my shelf there's a giant maggot. So
I thought you were getting rid of those.
What, the maggots?
Has kicked off with abandon, by the way.
Just chucking them in every packet just to try and get through the stock, is it? Chuck a maggot in there, mate. Go on, just chuck some maggots in, it'll be fine.
What do you mean Peppa Pig doesn't come with a maggot?
Right. You can see the way this is going to turn out.
I must say, I've been enjoying people showing their maggots on Twitter today.
Show us your hashtag. Show us your maggot.
The best quote I saw all evening was one of my friends who said, "I'm looking for a semi-upright one." And I was like, I'm laughing.
I'll ask no more questions.
Aren't we all, darling?
Aren't we all? Right, with that in mind, should we crack on and watch the Demons then?
Yes.
Episode 1 we're going to be starting with, right back from, as I said, 19th of June 1971. So, Jeff, are you going to do the countdown? Because I think you are literally the best person at counting to three.
I'll do my famous counting to three. Ready, everyone?
I'm ready.
2, 3.
Oh wait, I've just fucked up part 5 for some weird reason.
Oh my god! Cut.
Sorry.
Stop.
Right, start again. Right, part 1.
Okay.
Right, I'm ready.
1, 2, 3. There we go. Oh, I've got no sound.
Yes.
For some reason. There we go. So
they say count to
Love
3,
that.
go on 2.
Yeah, is everyone at the same point? So, Al,
There he is.
Yeah, this brand new head sculpt for the Third Doctor is based on his look there, isn't he? In this title sequence.
Yeah. It was quite interesting watching Ed explain on one of the podcasts we did this week, and me explain, and I was like, I'm after an early head and a very benevolent smile, and Ed's like, oh yeah, we started with an old head. I don't remember that.
Don't. Was he not at the briefing?
Apparently not. Well, look. Look at that.
So
That puts you Villa Diodati to shame, man.
in your world, perhaps. In mine, it looks rather oldish, but it's. Do you know what? This first episode of the Demons for me is probably the best out of the 5 of them. I think it is so full of atmosphere, and this opening really sells it, doesn't it?
It is. I mean, it's one of those ones that really suffers from a bit of rambling in the middle. I totally agree with you on that, Paul. There's some bits of this I absolutely love, but there's also some bits I find sort of chronically slow, and then there's some stuff thrown in that's really odd, like car chases. It was a perfect thing. Let's have a car chase. For what reason?
For why? Well, just why not? So there is the rather wonderful Miss Hawthorne, the local White Witch. I remember reading a book of the Demons way before I ever saw it on TV, and I remember her being described as the local White Witch. And because I didn't actually live in a village, I lived in a slightly more urban built-up area, I thought, wow, all these villages, they have a local White Witch. Like you'd have a local doctor or, you know, a local postman. They've got a local White Witch.
Well, it was, and it was really weird in that era. I don't know if you had the same thing, Paul, but because you know, but I remember reading some of those books like Dennis Wheatley and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Black witches, white witches,
Yeah.
and this story, this opener is a real. Sort of,
It's full on into that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was the Willy book. The Devil Rides Out. It's
I see, yeah.
something or other, wasn't it? But I think during the 70s, well, certainly through the 60s and then into the 70s, there was this massive resurgence, probably through Hammer, House of Horror, wasn't there, on the kind of rural, witchy, spooky, kind of devilish sort of stories. And we had, you know, some even the Americans kind of got in on the act with things like Rosemary's Baby, wasn't it, the Roman Polanski film? And then over here we had the John, Edward Woodward, The Wicker Man. That was what I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
All of that kind of stuff.
Folklore and
Folklore.
folk tales,
That's
wasn't
what
it?
I was looking for. Yeah.
If you ever get a chance, there's a brilliant writer called... Sorry, Jeff, go on.
Oh no, I was just going to say they tried to do a bit of folklore in 73 Yards, didn't they, in last series of Doctor Who, and it started out brilliantly, and then kind of went off pissed for me. So that's that.
Well, thanks for sledgehammering that one in, Jeff. You had to get that in.
Well, no, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, folk, it's hard. I think one of the problems with horror per se is it's hard to keep the levels of horror up. You know, you can start with a sort of premise, but it's like all things that are supernatural. You know, at some point you have to start explaining it, and then it begins to fall apart.
Yeah.
You can do, yeah. Or you sort of somehow manage to kind of keep the mystery going, or keep elements of the mystery going. Like one of the things about Villa Diodati, which I thought was quite good, is everything's kind of scientifically explained, apart from the ghosts that Graham sees. You know, the old lady and the child sort of thing. It's like that's never explained. So there's always that question at the back of your mind: is it still a ghost? Is it still magic? And we start here, don't we? This is the Doctor with Joe Grant and Mike Yates in his garage, explaining. The Doctor explains why there's no such thing as magic. He pretends to show Bessie driving on its own, but actually explains it's a remote control. Joe, look, I've got the clicker right here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I completely agree with that. And it's interesting that they picked up that aspect in the 60th and sort of continued it into Series 1, which was the sort of trying to bring back the unexplainable and the supernatural. I mean, there's elements of this, and there's elements of White Blue Yonder, which initially I really didn't like, but I absolutely...
That's a good thought. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
And it's... You know, and it takes me back to watching things like Sapphire and Steel and stuff like that, where there's never any explanation. It was just kind of they turned up and you know what was going down. So yeah.
Oh man, I love Sapphire and Steel. That was so good.
Blue Yonder is a great episode. I we really liked that one, didn't we, Paul? I felt that in what was only 3 episodes for the 60th, it kind of. It's like I watched the Star Beast with my kids, and they quite enjoyed it. And then I thought, perhaps we'll watch it next week. And I ended up watching Wild Blue Yonder before the kid, when the kids were in bed. And I was like, God, they really wouldn't like this one. And it feels like it should have been a midnight type of episode. You know what I mean? 8 out of 10 or something. You know.
That's right, absolutely. It's slightly unnerving and disturbing, and in a way, I think I've said it before. That's why I think I like some of the early Pertwee ones. They have, whether it's the filmmaking technique or just the way they lit things or the way it was done back then, but they have a very good way of unsettling you and just leaving you a little bit. It's like, how there's certain sounds, like there's certain notes. I always, and I did it before, so I'll do it again. But
Devil's Hump.
The bit in Image of the Fendal where he's in the forest, and it's just that low note that just starts going, and it's like, it just puts you on edge.
It does. Yeah, you're right. I think they love tapping into that during those Hinchcliffe years, didn't they? It's, actually, what's that Hinchcliffe? That was
it might be
Graham Williams, wasn't it? Actually, yeah.
Al, have you listened to the Big Finish audio with the Third Doctor and Joe, where they're investigating the legendary devil's hoof prints that appeared in the snow one night. Do you know that story?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
a really good, slightly spooky.
That was a very good dovetail into this episode, wasn't it? That guy just looks like a classic BBC reporter. Circa 1975.
It does. Do you know what I love about this on the Demons here is this channel that they're presenting this documentary about the Barrow dig on is BBC Three, which was obviously a completely unknown thing back in those days. BBC Two was only like a few years old, wasn't it? So now we got 3 BBC channels in this alternate universe where UNIT isn't sure what decade it's in. But there's a point.
Yes, no, there is a truism to that. They were always kind of, they either were in the 70s or suddenly they weren't, and they were in the future or the near future.
Yeah, and it was never quite settled as to which is which. It's whatever the story needs. If it has to mention there's a time.
There was a very good horror film that, well, I say it was horror. It was a horror film that came out about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I think it's called Late Night with the Devil.
Oh yes, I've seen that. Yeah,
Have you seen it?
yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, it's quite good, isn't it?
Oh, I thought that was excellent. That was true classic kind of. It all starts out with a bunch of people that are all slightly oddball, and then all hell literally breaks loose.
Yeah, it's
that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, who's the main guy in it? It's David. I can't remember his surname, but he's in Ant-Man and various other films. You know, but this was like a big lead for him, and he's like the TV quiz show host, isn't it? It's based on a real story, isn't it? A real event.
I think it's implied that it's a real event, but I
Yes.
think it's actually a made-up event. But it's filmed, I think, with a real sort of straightforward. There's Miss Hawthorne.
There
with her
she's
hang
again.
around her
Ankh.
neck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
'cause-
popular in the 70s with the Ankh.
Yeah. I think was she not? Did they kind of thought well she probably shouldn't wear like a Christian cross for fear
Maybe.
of upsetting people and potentially
Oh, well, they did upset
having it
people,
censored.
because as we know, at the end of this story... spoiler alert,
they blow up the
don't wanna
church.
hear it. Yeah, and people thought they had actually done
Blown
it.
up a
and
church,
there was they
See?
wrote in to say it was despicable.
Anyone who says that special effects in the 1970s are clearly wrong because of
Yeah.
that.
That convinced them. Yeah.
Yeah. God, they're
I just
throwing everything. Sorry, I was going to say they're throwing everything at this. It's almost like Barry Letts and Robert Sloman have kind of raided the glossary of satanic kind of storytelling, and they're just throwing it out. We've had Beltane, we've got the Horned Beast, we've got the Devil's Hunt, we've got Devil's End, we've got everything. It's just thrown in there. So if you've got no mistakes at all, that we're dealing potentially with a devilish influence, just look at the script. There's no mistake.
But
And-
that was a great bit there where like, they're, you know, everybody's standing watching TV.
Yeah,
taking
I love
the
it,
piss out
yeah.
of it, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
the doctor's like, we're going. And Joe's like, why? And he's like, she's absolutely right.
Yeah.
You can't let those idiots open that.
There's something there. Yeah.
yeah. I like them.
And it's never fully explained why, because he doesn't. I guess the Doctor doesn't really know at that point.
No,
then
that's
what's
it. It's
going on.
and this is why it's almost like this first story. Oh, sorry, this first episode is like it has a different vibe to the rest of the episodes. The following 4, I think this one has its own atmosphere and everything else, and it sets up a lot of stuff. And then it's almost like it goes into. I'm sorry if I'm going to offend a lot of people, but standard kind of Doctor Who storytelling mode. You know,
Yeah,
it's,
it does.
You know, there's great bits throughout. We'll get to those as we watch it. But this first episode is almost a thing on its own, I think. With
It
a lot
is,
of
and this is
things
this
that
is
hang in.
pure. Yeah, this is the pure, you know, slaughtered lamb from American
Yeah,
Werewolf in
yeah.
London, isn't it? The sort of pub full of locals that I don't want visitors round here.
So they're kind round here. Now, interestingly, Oldbourne, where this is filmed, well, this is studio, obviously, isn't it? But the village where they were all on location for is not too far from me. Actually, it's just down the road.
Oh, isn't it?
Yeah, 'cause I'm in Wiltshire. See, I'm not far from Silbury Hill, which I think is one of the things that inspired at least part of this, or was in the news a couple of years before, a few years before, when they dug into Silbury Hill and there's a lot of local stuff
yes.
around that you shouldn't
You're
touch it.
absolutely right. I read about this. You're absolutely right. That was the inspiration, wasn't it?
I think, yeah, or at least part of
Well,
it,
it's
at least anyway.
implied.
So now Miss Hawthorne has been trying to. She's defeated by some elemental wind. Avaunt, all ye elementals! She loves that. Oh man, she's just thrown herself right into it. I love it to bits, and she's about to get twonked by a big rock. But no, settle, calm. What's her name? Damaris Heyman. She's so good. She came back, didn't she, for the Demons sequel that they did
VHS
relatively
thing,
recently.
Yeah. Or DVD maybe. I was going to say when this starts, there's like the howling wind and rain and the frog and the cat and all this kind of witchy imagery. And
the witchy familiars.
It's straight in there with the atmosphere and the kind of myths and things.
That's what I mean. It's like they've raided the glossary of all the witchy, devilly, folklore type stuff and just thrown it at it. Even the spinning signpost. It's straight out of that playbook. That's brilliant.
I just want to read. We had a couple of comments from people about this episode, so I just want to read one out for now. This is from Jack Mayfield. He says, "Quintessential, perfect story. To coin a phrase, I'm a sucker for any story with cavorting druids in it," which I love. He says, such as The Stones of Blood, Canine and Company, A Girl's Best Friend. So, are you guys fans of cavorting druids?
I mean, is it impossible not to be a fan? I don't know.
No, I don't think you can dislike cavorting druids.
Well, I think what's interesting is that we take so much now as either quaint or we take it for granted. Things like maypole dancers and the horses with the sheets and the horse skull that sort of dance through the village, aka the Wicker Man. A lot of that was to do with different times of the year as harvest, sort of more pagan
festivals,
and stuff. And yet it's kind of like the Christian church has kind of absorbed, all these elements into it. But I think it does create a folklore is amazing. Go back into. I was going to come back and ask you about the Silbury Hill thing actually, but I think. Paganism, folklore, I think are more ingrained in our culture than some.
I think so.
We sort of give it credit.
It's all that kind of Dark Ages, pre-Christian almost kind of stuff, isn't it? All the forces that when the tribes of England and what have you were all looking into. I don't know how to word it, but. All the elements had a soul, had a voice, had some sort of spirit behind them, and not just elements, but trees, rocks, stones, everything that we could see and touch or feel had some kind of mythology behind it, and the stories that escaped from all that have kind of bled through into, they persisted through all kinds of cultural change, and some have been adapted, and some have kind of just existed on their own, and they're so entwined with who we are, over here. It's just, I think that's a sign of an old. What's that?
I was agreeing with you, but I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
I was saying things like road, road names and place names, and
things that have been corrupted by different languages over the years, or by lingual shift.
If you ever go to Boston,
sorry, this is a great joke here, where the Doctor turns the map the right way round for Joe. Apparently, is based on a thing that happened while they were driving to the studio off to a location somewhere. Katie Manning was reading the map upside down. They got lost. Pertwee looks over and goes, Katie, whips it round the right way. So they thought they'd use that in the show.
Well, it's fitting for the character and obviously quite true to life. I was going to say, if you've ever been to Boscastle in Cornwall, there's the Museum of Witchcraft there, and it's a really fascinating place full of all these old trinkets and all the stuff you were talking about, Paul. The rocks having power to them and the wind and stuff. And we bought this little poster that says the witches of Boscastle selling the wind to the sailors and stuff, and it's just painting and
it's amazing how all this travelled, because you know, if you go over to the Americas, a lot of that stuff went with them. You know, and Maine and places like that, where there's you know, and witchcraft per
Salem
se.
and you know,
Salem, exactly. So it's all, you know, it was really strong. It did all.
I think because a lot of those communities were kind of ostracised by, you know, by sort of growing and persisting sort of you know, sort of Christian religion, you know, Catholicism and Protestantism and Methodism and, you know, all those kind of things. And I think when they saw the roots of the new world, there's this open land where we can just establish and grow and be who we want to be, sort of thing.
Yeah, but that, you know, that's an important point, you know, because Christianity, in my opinion, has an unpopular theory of the week, but it has a lot to answer for. I mean, the witches would have been, in the old days, the old wise women who had herbs and poultices that would help people. You know, the Druids were the religion before Christianity came along, but they're suddenly made to be evil and pagan and unclean.
Changed the narrative.
But that whole inversion of what these people probably originally were. So things like white witches and dark witches, you know, how many people were burned at the stake just because they were the local midwife, or
that's it.
You know,
well, it's fear, isn't it? You know, fear of the unknown and the different, isn't it? And
well, it's
you know, the
partly that, but I think also, Jeff, it's a way of getting rid of unsavoury elements or any threat to your own established authority or rising authority. You know, you see it repeated so many times. It's like, you know, you create an enemy by blaming people who don't have a voice or can't speak, you know, who can't speak for themselves. You blame all your problems on them. So whether it's the old lady down at the bottom of the road, or whether it's, you know, the family from a foreign country or whatever it is, you know, you see it right now, right this time, and suddenly you blame those people for everything. They become demonized, literally, you know, subhuman somehow, and people gang up and all kinds of shit happens. So, you know, I agree with you, Al. I think
that's what the church was all about. The church was all about,
like the church, like any power structure, you know, it might have had good intentions at the heart of it. I think, you know, the heart of Christianity really is just be nice to people. That's basically all, you know, that is the key learning of the Bible. Be nice, live a good life, and you'll be rewarded for it. You know, that's the key learning. But, you know, it has its own power structure, and like most power structures, like any power structure really, they want to persist. They have to keep feeding themselves, and they do so by having people basically join them, you know, buy into that power and maintain it and feed it and fuel it. And that's kind of what the Master's doing here, really, sort of bringing it back to the Demons.
Yeah,
you know, he's trying to establish and build his own power structure using the power at the heart of this village.
And then we got dark druids.
I'd just like to read another comment. This is from our friend Lucy McCall. Lucy Lucy says, "I love the Demons." So Lucy has got a book coming out soon that
she does.
Carries on some stories with some of the characters in this. So Lucy says, the Master as an alarmingly convincing parish priest with an endearingly useless coven. So just seeing the Druids there reminded me of that. The
That's
country settings,
true.
the country setting, the characters, Joe saves the day, Miss Hawthorne and Sergeant Benton save the Doctor from homicidal Morris dancers, Bok and Azael are creepy, and the Brigadier tries 5 rounds rapid on the chap with the wings. Love
Classic
it.
line.
And we also had just one more Doctor Who thoughts. My favourite Pertwee story and one of my all-time favourites. Just a perfect mix of folklore, horror, sci-fi, and the unit family being their absolute peak of power. So I think this is quite a popular one, really, isn't it? I've always liked this.
The unit family one's interesting because you have them essentially split up this time, which is quite difficult.
And in their civvies for a lot of it as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Brigadier's gone off to some posh soiree, so we saw him dressed up there a few scenes back, didn't we? When he sort of pops in to say goodbye, I'm off, kind of thing. You know, you kids behave. Yeah. He's all dressed up in his. Of course, we do have some weird things going on here, actually. So we've got trees sort of falling down, the signpost twirling around out of nowhere. I don't think there's any real. Well, I think it all comes down to some sort of psychic influence from from the creature, doesn't it? I think, but
do you know what? Just seeing those
protecting it or
bits there,
something,
when they're driving down the country road in the dark, reminds me. So,
but
when
night shooting, very rare in Doctor Who, in a lot of TV them days. Actually, to be fair. Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, I noticed a little redhead light hanging on top of the cave there. Yeah, so when I used to live at home, we lived in a house in a single track road with about 6 other houses in the middle of this country estate, and it was pretty spooky at night, to the point where I couldn't play Resident Evil when I was home alone past about 11 p.m. because it was too bloody terrifying. And that shot with the Doctor and Joe driving down the road, that reminded me. I once went to see Woman in Black at the cinema, and if you guys have seen it, it's a superb film.
I've got the booklet up there, actually. It's on my to-read.
Right, a really good film. And I went with a friend of mine, and quite a sort of tough-looking guy. And as the film progresses, it gets more and more terrifying. And my mate turned to me and he went, "I don't like it," like this. I thought, if he's not liking it, it's really doing its trick. But when I drove home that night, I had to take a detour because of a road closure, and I ended up going through these winding country roads, and the car lights are flickering between the trees and stuff, and that shot there reminded me, and it was bloody terrifying. So
as terrifying as this now, with everything kicking off, so they've broken into the barrow and everything. It's all hell's breaking loose, literally. Look at that scary demon face, the little red eyes lit up. The Doctor's right in there. Joe's going in to try and save him.
Steve, we should have made Bok light pipe eyes on Bok. That would have been the one.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
You always think these things later, don't you? Yeah.
Always.
Oh, what a cliffhanger that is, though.
Yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it? The way that whole tension kind of builds up, and I love the way that it's presented with that documentary as well. When you look at a lot of modern TV, how we get these kind of mockumentaries, right, where it's like a documentary, but we're in the filming, we're in with the film crew basically. This almost seems to kind of predict that in some way. It's a really good storytelling device for this episode.
It's good.
Have either of you had any kind of actual spooky experiences?
I have had some weird ones. Yeah. I used to work in a supermarket years ago when I was in my sort of late teens, early 20s. I was on one of those management fast track kind of things. And so I had the keys to the shop, which I thought was great at the time, but it actually meant I had to answer all the alarm calls, which was really not good at all. So if the alarm went off in the middle of the night and I was on call, I'd have to drive down there, open up the shop. And I always went in with my mate, and we used to wind each other up, like, we'd just go in and sort of turn lights on and off and try to shit each other up and everything else. But there's one time we started doing that. We were in this particular shop, and it had a bit of a story that the guy, it used to be a cinema, and the guy sort of hung himself in the projection room, and his ghost still haunted the supermarket. Long story short, right,
cool.
All the lights in the shop went off, right? He wasn't tricking me, we were both together. All the lights went off. We were in the warehouse, and the only thing coming through was a blue square of light from the back of the warehouse, from a room we hadn't seen before. And we kind of walked in, because we kind of scaring each other senseless as we were walking up to it, and it was a blue light from one of those fly traps, and it was in a butcher's preparation room or something. And two guys, right? You just imagine this, right? Two guys, we go, go on mate, daring each other, go on, look at you, like that sort of thing. Get off me, man, get off me. I mean, that was about as scary as it got, but it was terrifying. We thought we saw something move within, but anyways. What about you then?
Oh, I've had a few. In fact, our whole family has. Weirdly, my oldest brother, who's a determined ghost hunter, has never seen anything. But
really?
My sister woke up several times, aged 13 or thereabouts, to see a green man floating above her bed.
No.
Really?
My other brother went.
That makes my story sound a bit shit, doesn't it? Really?
Well, my other brother went to a farmhouse in France on an exchange visit and ended up basically in this farmhouse. The whole family slept downstairs, which he couldn't quite figure out, and every single night footsteps came from the outside of his door. The door didn't open.
No.
The footsteps came all the way across the room to the side of his bed, and then stopped
terrifying.
and stepped at the way. And in one of the houses that we lived in, we had a purple room at the top of the house that nobody. That was Langton Gate,
Yeah.
which is in Scotland. And
Never go into it. Just always stay clear.
footsteps would come down. Footsteps would come all. There was 3 floors, so footsteps would come all the way down 3 flights of stairs in the middle of the night with nobody there. I've seen a ghost walk right past me, and to have come as close as it did to the window as it walked past. It
Whoa.
would have had to walk through a wall.
That's
And
really weird.
I've also been physically attacked, as in felt like something was trying to. The previous house to the one I'm in now, I really, both my wife and I, she didn't tell me. I didn't tell her because I didn't want to make her.
Yeah.
And then she eventually told me she'd had exactly the same thing happen to her.
Wow.
And again, you could hear creepy noises. It was always a sound like somebody was walking around upstairs. And Jasmine, when she was about 2, just sort of, we would sort of say, "Oh, we're going to do prayers. Yeah, we'll do prayers, blah blah blah," and it would be like, "Oh, God bless this person, God bless that person," and then she was like, "Oh, God bless Baba," who was Jazz's grandpa, who I think is also the ghost that I saw.
Really?
And I said, "Oh, why did you say that?" And she said, "Because he's standing over there."
What?
So it's not. And when I was at my parents' house, something. And this was after my mum passed away, and something definitely.
Kissed your cheek.
I said to my sister in the morning,
Yeah.
"Why the bloody hell did you let the dogs wander up and down the corridor and come in and sort of touch my face?" And she said the dogs were in my room all night.
Wow,
Really?
that's weird, isn't it? There's some weird stuff like that. I did, since you say that, actually, I remembered something at the same supermarket, weirdly, and it was when the shop was open, so it was full of people, customers and what have you, and I was upstairs in the office, and down from the office was a really narrow flight of steps. It was, quite squashed, quite claustrophobic. And the lights were never good, and I swear, just this one time, I've been up and down these stairs loads, but there's one time I went through, and I got to a certain step, and it's like this massive chill just came over me. It's like goosebumps just scraped up my arms, and it just felt weird for a second or two, and then sort of passed through. And I thought, I kind of paused on the steps. I thought, oh, that was a bit fucking strange.
Yeah.
I always think it's to do with energy.
Maybe it is.
Places that are haunted that it's supposed to have energy, and when you walk into places, you can tell if there's energies there or not. I mean, I've been to castles and stuff where things moved, and we'd set up experiments and stuff. But
it's interesting what you said about Jasmine, because they say that young kids can sort of sense things, can't they? And I remember this one time in the middle of the night changing Ethan when he was, I don't know, maybe a year and a half perhaps, and I was kneeling down to change him and that, and he was looking behind my shoulder, and he was smiling and laughing, and it was such a strong kind of moment. I thought I one of my grandparents are there.
It's
They've
giving
come,
me the chills.
And I had a friend who I filmed with a lot years ago, and his wife, she said, we went there for dinner, and Ali went to help her. Excuse me. And Ali went to help the wife change their baby, and she said to Ali, "Oh, do you think Ethan ever sees spirits and things?" And Ali was like, "Oh, I don't think so." And she said, "Oh, he often sees things, and because apparently they do, and they lose the ability when they get older." So that time of Ethan, I was like, "Yeah, that he's looking at something, and he, seeing something."
Yeah, 100%. Even Harrison went to a camp, and he and his friends went into the toilet block together, and there was a guy in the corner who just disappeared.
Really?
And they both just literally faded out of existence. They both turned to each other, him and his mate. Because like after they've been to camp, you're like, "Oh, did you have a good time?" Blah blah blah. And he was like, "Yeah," but they said there was this one thing, and you're like, really?
Guys, you're both freaking me out now. I don't do ghosts and
it's
stuff.
weird.
But...
I've only once, well, I say once, but twice I've encountered what I would call spirits that were not friendly. But for the most part, I believe ghosts or spirits are very benevolent. But that one that felt like it was, trying to attack me was one, and the other one was at the same house where I went downstairs to get something out of the fridge, and I was bending down, and I knew something was behind me, and I knew it was a horrible old crone type person.
Wow.
And I wouldn't turn around. I literally wouldn't turn around because
That's
I didn't.
weird, isn't it?
You know.
I was at just my last story, because it's the only other one that I've had, is I was staying at a hotel when I was a rep years ago, and I was in somewhere in Norfolk, Suffolk-Norfolk border, so I can't remember exactly where, but it was a really old, quite posh hotel, and they put me in this room that was all like wood panelled, and it was a proper canopy bed as well, with really old kind of thing, drapery hanging down off it. And the receptionist had already scared the pants off me by saying, watch out for the old white lady or whatever it was, something like that. And I'm like, yeah. But I swear to God, I woke up in the middle of the night because something was pressing down on me really hard while I was asleep, and it was pressing so hard that it woke me up. And when I woke up, it was still pressing down hard, and I had my head in the pillows, so I was kind of like on my side, on my resting on my side kind of thing. And then suddenly it just went like that. It just released, and I felt the release of the pressure. And I looked around, there was nothing there, but it just kind of freaked me out. And then just the receptionist, remember the white lady, watch out for her. It was like, it's like a Father Ted moment or something. And I kind of went back to sleep. But it's in the morning afterwards, it sort of freaked me out when I started thinking about it. But to be fair, I had been on the source for a little bit as well. There's a few of us staying there, and we'd had a few tipples.
I can't trust that story now. You've said that.
I can't trust it. No, I'm joking. So that sequence there, I think, was quite brave and a bit flawed at the same time, because they did the right thing, which is not to try and show the giant demon. They only showed the guy looking up, and I think that was the right choice. And those giant footprints on the ground. But then when London landed, it was a tiny little spray paint. Yeah. It was kind of like.
But the idea is good, isn't it?
10 feet across.
And I love this. Look at Mike Yates and his driving gloves and his sunnies and his PVC sporty jacket there.
They've just wandered out.
Man of action.
Canteen, haven't they?
Yeah.
What time are you guys out on it? Because I haven't pressed play because I was listening to the ghost stories.
Effing naughty. 9:17.
9 minutes 14 in.
Yeah.
9:14. Okay, if I go
9 minutes 19 now.
Okay, I'll go for 9:30.
Sorry, we distracted because I was enjoying the ghost story.
Yeah, I was too. Yeah.
It's interesting hearing about. It's funny. People quite often don't talk about these things because they're quite personal. If it's happened to you, and you don't want to be seen as, a
nutter
or whatever, or not not
Sorry,
not a nutter. But it's funny the amount of people that really don't believe in anything.
I don't know. I kind of go with the Doctor here. I kind of think if there is anything like that, there is probably some science behind it somewhere, but we just don't know what it is. I like to subscribe to the idea that the sort of dark matter universe, that like 97% of the universe is unknown, unseen. We don't know what it is. It's just dark matter, dark energy, or something.
Did you see that bit of the universe they've just discovered? And it's a series of galaxies and nebulas, but it's actually the whole way it's structured is like a DNA molecule.
Oh, I did see something. Yeah. It's bizarre, isn't it? It's
absolutely insane the way the thing.
But again, it's like I kind of read that and I was thinking, like, this is how sort of patterns repeat through nature. On a micro scale and also on a macro scale as well. It's really something.
I definitely, I'm well interested
Miss Hawthorne's in the box.
Ghosts
is that the same
and aliens and.
Sorry, go on, Jeff.
Yeah, no, ghosts and aliens and myths and cryptozoology and stuff. I find that sort of thing fascinating. And I think for me, probably quite a lot of that started with so my uncle lives on the side of Loch Ness, and within that world, he's quite well known, and he co-founded the Loch Ness Monster Museum, and
I think you told me this, mate.
I might have done. I've been up there at Loch Ness when they've had sonars, the sonar stuff over on the boats and things, and heard explanations for all of the legendary photos from him, what they are, but then the handful of things that are unexplained and what it could be in there, and that sort of thing's always fired my capture my imagination, and ghost stories, and like whenever I go somewhere like to Cornwall or Wales or America, I will try and find a local ghost story book and pick one up. And,
immerse yourself in that.
Fascinated by that sort of stuff.
It is. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, nature and mysticism just kind of go hand in hand. I think
I mean, it's good food for the imagination as much as anything as well, isn't it? Those, who doesn't like being a little bit scared or creeped out by certain things?
Even in this, but even in this, even that name, Mr. Magister, there's a certain sort of slightly unnerving aspect to that.
Yeah, you're right. I totally agree.
The name Magister quite sort of vaguely threatening, and I really don't know why.
And it probably kind of starts the whole master as a sort of master of disguise thing as well. I think because this was the final story in this season where every story had been had featured the master as the main villain of the piece.
Yeah, and they kind of wanted to calm it down a bit.
Yeah, because they thought it was potentially overshadowing the Doctor at some point. I think Pertwee was getting a bit concerned, even though he and Delgado were obviously mates.
Yeah, really good friends. Yeah.
Wait a
minute, I think you look back in.
What's that?
Coven are trying to duff up.
Yeah, Benton's having a good old scrap here with himself, by the look of it.
Yeah.
It's great acting there. He's doing all right, isn't he? He's on that magic mat.
You look back in history, and you have all these myths, and and I think these things come from somewhere. And I know in a couple of 100 years ago, whatever, people understood less about the world than we do now. But I like to think ghosts and things like that. There's something to it. Do you know what I mean? It's not just stories. These things have come from somewhere.
Good. I mean, I agree with you. I think it's interesting. But Professor Brian Cox is completely right. We are all made out of stars. The atoms that make up our bodies were, in galaxies and suns and whatever billions of years ago. So we're all kind of made up of stellar material. And I quite like as you know, I'm a Ghostbusters fan, but I kind of really like the idea that when you pass on, you go back to the fabric of the universe. And
it's like
maybe that's part of, and to the point of science is behind everything. I think science is behind everything, but science is nature to a degree.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. That was a kind of a freaky bit there, wasn't it? That montage of really weird images.
The heat.
The heat, right? Yeah. Burning bush and whited out Doctor. It's because there's a shield thrown up, isn't it, over the village,
and a heat barrier, wasn't it?
Yeah, like a dome. But of course, we don't actually see the dome. They have to kind of act that it's there.
Yeah.
And there's some quite ingenious ways that they do that. Number one, blowing up the van. That's always a good one.
Blowing up the old, less costly van.
The old Bedford van. Is that a Bedford van? It is, isn't it? That's a Bedford van.
That's very Dalek Invasion of Earth.
Yeah. What do you say, Jeff?
On the sign, the Devil's End sign, it's got Satan Hall on it as well, which is kind of really on the nose, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, Al, can I throw a couple of questions at you that we've had from people over the last day or two?
You can absolutely. You'll be. Oh, by the way, just before we do that question, Paul, you'll be delighted to know that I read some of the comments on the Villa Deal.
Did you? Oh, you didn't go there, did you?
One of the first comments was, doesn't he realise that almost every monster in Doctor Who is a bloke?
I did see that one. Yes.
And I was like,
you see.
I know that, but that wasn't the point.
You mess with our listeners, mate. They will roast you.
No, come back.
Well, yeah, we've been roasted. Yeah.
Sorry, Jeff. I interrupted your
No,
question.
no, it's all right. So this is a great question. This is from Jonathan Wilkins, who's the editor of the Doctor Who Titan comics, and I'm not entirely sure if Jonathan's serious here or not, but I'm going to ask on his behalf anyway. Jonathan asks, would a Meglos figure be possible?
Oh, wow, God, a Meglos figure. Yes, it would. So, sorry, this might be related to something I said this week on Ellie Base, which I tend to sort of, what's the word, wax lyrical, but I was thinking, so it concerned me a little bit that the Third Doctor set, as nice as it was, kind of does seem to have slightly alienated people because of the Sonic being included, which some people did want.
I loved it. I loved Sonic.
I really liked it.
I literally worn the battery out. I love it so much. Yeah.
Yeah. But what was interesting was I then was sort of thinking more about the if we did the Fourth Doctor, if we did it, what would you do? And one of the thoughts that I had was, could we, if we did it, would we do a 2-pack? Would we do a Tom as he was at the start of his tenure, in the red jacket with a new head, with the hat and without the hat? Because I think we could probably do a better sculpt. And then at the other end, do we do him in a season 18 outfit,
the big
with
burgundy heavy
and the burgundy, but with the hat, which we've never done? And actually, the Meglos head could be included in theory as part of that, because if we made it with swappable heads, then in theory you could take it to the nth degree. It depends. So there's also the blanked on the episode, but this is the one with the Pharmacy in it, and the
the Leisure Hive.
The Leisure Hive. So there's a bunch of different heads you could in theory do if you didn't have a lot of accessories. So you could have, start Tom with hat, without hat. You could have season 18 with the shoes. You could have it with a new head, with the hat, without the hat. You could have Meglos head, and you could have the old head from the from that episode.
Oh, sorry, I just had to point out that. See the flaming stick? Another way to insinuate a invisible heat wall right in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be
go on.
cool. Yeah.
No. So it might be tied to that. It's interesting. I've watched Meglos. I would like to say recently.
You could just put a cactus in the box. That would do, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's the question. Is he talking about Meglos as the actual talking cactus?
Yeah, or the Tom Baker halfway point.
He put a picture of Spiky Tom, so I'm assuming.
Oh,
that,
did
he? Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one because of the way the heads are made, having all those little spikes. I suspect it would be.
That could be quite tricky, couldn't it? Yeah. It might end up being little bumps rather than long spikes. With a green paint job.
I'm trying to think of other clever things you could do, but unless you made it a face swap version.
Yeah,
you could
comes with its own pins.
Yeah,
pins in it.
Yeah, you could do it like that. Yeah,
it's probably.
But then you end up with so many swappable heads. Yeah, no other accessories. But maybe that's what people would like. So
who knows?
So
who knows? Yeah, Meglos head is interesting.
Good question.
Oh well, Jonathan will be pleased to hear that. Jamie asks, can/will Doctors appear more than once in the Vortex series? So, for example, could another Pertwee variant release later down the line?
Yes, and again, I did sort of. This was when I was waxing lyrical. Yes, what I've said is it will not, absolutely will not appear at retail. It isn't on any other plans for this year, obviously. Could it appear as a sort of true season 7 version? Say in 2026? Yeah, possibly. I wouldn't be against. I've talked quite. Also mentioned the fact, I think, that I'd quite like to include a Metabilis crystal and maybe a dematerialization circuit.
Ooh,
so
yeah.
I'd love to do another Pertwee, but I think it'd be too soon to do it again.
Yeah.
Sort of immediately. But I've got an idea for next year that I'm playing around with that might work.
So
intriguing.
I'm Bessie like a nutter.
there was a bit of
crank up the film rate, frame rate.
There was a bit of chat and confusion about that press release, Al, that said this is the first of 5 online exclusives this year, and I think I saw you mention something about that. Galley.
I did ask our PR guys why they'd said that, but they have said it, and so therefore it's true. There is more to come. You can't deny it if it's in the press release. It seems slightly odd to me to sort of say that, and let's hope it can come true. I've got a few issues going on at the moment that are causing.
Because that's quite a rate, isn't it? I suppose.
Well, you know, this is the first year where we intend to really use the online exclusives. I will say, for those that are moany, that there are no more Sonics.
No more Sonics.
Sonic? No more Sonic and Doctor packs, you mean?
So I saw a bunch of things about, are they going to be
there's always some, isn't there? You can't please all the people all the time, can you?
Oh, you know, it's quite depressing, and I always say it sounds really negative, but it's been a real mixed bag this week. Every time I think I've done something new and exciting,
there's a bunch that
you get kicked in the balls, so you know, it's like.
But
then saying that, I think the people who've been really happy with the set have been incredibly happy, like over the moon, absolutely jumping over it happy. You know what I mean? So I think that outweighs the negative nonsense. For me, it would anyway.
We sent a few quotes, screenshots to you, didn't we, from people, and a lot of very happy people, and it's been great today seeing people sharing their pictures and receiving the sets and stuff, and
there is, but then for every, it is a bit dispiriting when
dun dun dun.
Oh my God, we missed the whole.
We did. They were terrorised by a small man in a skin-tight gargoyle suit.
Now, who played Bok? Was it? It wouldn't have been Deep Roy. It's probably
no, it wasn't. It was somebody else completely who played Bok. It was Stanley Mason, according to my notes here.
Oh, I think that's right. I think that's one of those instances where it was a normal person, but they shot it to make it look like he was.
I think he was a small person. I think he was in the Doomsday Weapon. Colony in Space earlier. So the story. I think was it the story before this one? Story before the Demons. There's a little character right at the end of it in the sort of Doomsday Machine thing, and I think he was
the little sort of, oh God, I can't even think of the
possibly
word for that. Sort of alien
thing. Well, I think the actual thing was a puppet, but he was sort of. I don't know, he was in there somewhere. So.
I was just going to read this to you, Al. I might have sent this to you, actually. This is from Lewis Punch on Facebook. He said he loves the new figure, and you guys have really delivered with this and the new head and accessories and the Sonic. I hope to see all the other Doctors in this range, definitely Capaldi. I think he needs the most work out of all of them. A waistcoat, a new head, and use the metallic burgundy paint of the jacket, like with this cloak, to give that velvet look. I've heard a few people asking for Capaldi. So there's been a few asking for a koi version with the just sort of slightly darker mood, sort of final season sort of aspect to him. Big hair.
Capaldi is an interesting one, because I thought we'd actually done quite well with Capaldi, but then we had Footgate that came up, which was
what? Footgate.
We were asked to change the boots specifically, which we did, and I would say it's a combination of us not doing it quite well enough, but his feet are absolutely gigantic in the sort of second iteration that came out. But it was a deliberate request to change it, and we made a bollocks of it. So we probably should. But the rest of the Capaldi figure, I think, is actually
good.
They're good. Yeah. I saw
all of them really. I mean, the thing is, if we do all these Doctors again, we'd probably revisit the heads of most of them, because the tooling's 15 years old, give or take, probably.
And the way you apply the paint now as well. I mean, I'm just looking at John here. It looks so good. and they look better than ever, don't they?
Yeah, which is what I say. I've seen the shots without deco on them, and they are good, but I don't think they're that good. If you know what I mean. So I think if we do release Doctors again, we probably would have to come at it slightly more. I always think it's good to change stuff anyway.
Yeah, mix it up every now and then.
So there was a question. Well, was it a question more of a wondering / request? I suppose.
Amusing.
Amusing.
And it was on YouTube, and someone just said they'd love a tea lady Third Doctor.
Yeah, because we mentioned that in our review, didn't we?
Well, you've got Tea Lady Third Doctor.
Yeah.
You've got Shower Third Doctor.
Shower.
Yeah, you got to get
with the navy
Police regenerated tattoo.
Yeah. Got to get all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was also the Green Death. Doesn't he do the cleaning lady in the Green Death?
That was the thing. Yeah. That's where it came from. Because I thought.
Oh, it is that one. Sorry.
Yeah, because I thought when the maggot came with the box, I thought it was the Green Death Doctor, and then I was berating Jeff for it, and then I realised actually no, it's the costume's different. That's not the Green Death costume.
That's right.
But you're throwing a maggot in there, and Jeff points out, and there's also a time crystal in there. So my head was like, what's going on?
Yeah, I will say going forward, there are, accessory-wise, they become
even more insane.
Slightly more specific. They're all fucked up. Yeah, we put some primeval shit in there.
Yeah, what we got on the shelf? Some stuff from Lost at the Bottom of the Sea. Right, was it Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea?
Yeah, if you find a Peppa Pig cake in there, don't worry, it's fine. It's from the lesson.
Oh dear.
So we probably haven't got time to watch another episode tonight, as you guys have got to. You've got to get up at silly o'clock, haven't you, Al?
Hal's got to be around at the witching hour.
Yeah, my daughter is going off to Belgium, so I've got to do that. Sad news from last week, by the way, the hamster passed away.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Poor hamster. Oh, bless.
Passed away last weekend, so that kind of... Jasmine and I were just inconsolable. The rest of the house.
Sorry to hear that.
Didn't care.
Well, I know.
It's funny. He's sort of like you kind of get used to them being around. So.
Yeah.
Not to end on a downer, but so the hamster's gone. So
I'm sure that some of our listeners will, be moved.
Create a eulogy.
Yeah.
Let's have a prize for the best eulogy for the hamster.
Well, genuinely, we've had a couple of comments and stuff over time from people saying, like seeing the hamster and rainbow sparkles.
You wrote that though, didn't you, Jeff?
No, it wasn't me. Yeah, fibber. But you probably can't see, but rainbow sparkles and Poppy are through the other side of my shelf unit there now.
They're behind the shelves.
Yeah. And Ali came in here the other day and she went, "It stinks. Is that you or the guinea pigs?" And I was like, I think you'll find it's them. So, emergency
and they're
change.
saying, "It's Jeff. He did it. It wasn't us."
Yeah, bless him. When he was on his last legs, and boy, there was a couple of times I thought he'd gone already because
right.
the
He was
smell
just
was
asleep.
coming out of that cage. I was like, "Jeez."
Are you going to get another one?
No, the money is on a cat now. Jasmine is moving on.
Can't go wrong with the cat. I mean, you could, but
we thought hamster and cat were mutually exclusive, but now that the hamster has
shrugged off his mortal coil.
I think it's a cat.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what she's after. That's what she wants. She's working desperately.
Yeah, cats won't do wheels. We tried it. They're not a fan of that. It's like, what the
No.
Seriously, you want me to jump into that and run around like an idiot? What do you think I am? I'm not a rodent. I eat rodents for breakfast, bitch.
Yeah.
That's the
Apparently
cat's
she's written this whole presentation on cats that she wants to present to us, and I was like, I grew up with cats. I know how cats. And kid you not, because I grew up with cats. I know how cats need to be looked at. She turned to me and said, quite genuinely, "Dad, it's not the 1970s."
That's been rude.
I went, what?
Yes, because
Where'd that come from? Like, have cats changed much since the 1970s anyway?
Apparently they have.
they've
We got Gen Z
evolved so
cats
much.
now.
Usable thumbs.
See, the cats don't
Drinking
need
milk.
opposable thumbs because they've got trained humans who
Yeah,
have
that's
opposable
true.
thumbs.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
totally top of the food chain. Mine won't even come in the door. It won't even, like, we've had loads of cats through life, and they've all managed to figure out how to push or pull the door open, like downstairs. This one won't. He's like, meow. Like, open the door. Meow. Open a freaking door. It is literally like that. Human slave, I demand this door be opened forthwith. Damn you, why do you not respond? A foul upon your eyes, you bastards. Kind of thing.
I think, Paul, your point was eminently proved by the fact that we blatantly didn't discuss the second episode at all. We had ghost stories, we had all sorts of other folklore stuff.
We did.
Oh, we did mention the Devil's Footprints.
We did, yeah, with Clover News. That we got the heat dome mentioned.
Fashion comments on Benton's trousers.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah, we've got plenty more in the next 3 episodes to discuss for sure.
We could do more.
Is it 3 more episodes?
That's 5 episodes. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of padding in this one. In fact, I think episode 4 from memory is horribly drawn out.
Is it?
It's still a good story.
I think it does say. So, okay, before we sign off then, top moments from the couple of episodes that we've just watched. Let's go around, starting with Jeff.
Just the whole spooky vibe and the mysterious mound and the cave and the frogs at the beginning and the cats and, you know, all of that stuff.
Frogs and cats. Back to animals again. Al?
Yeah.
I'm conflicted because it really threw me back to my childhood and some of those sort of 70s slightly supernatural series that it was obviously riffing off heavily, and I think you mentioned that a couple of times, that it was sort of using every trick in the book, and I really like that. But I wonder whether, for younger listeners, I wonder whether that would resonate to the same.
Interesting point.
See it as just slow and I can't see very much, and do you know what I mean? So,
does it need a cultural cipher to really pick up on everything? Is that what you mean? That kind of
or would people sort of see it? I always think that's the sort of danger. There's a nostalgia element that we all kind of go with, and that
potentially.
I love it because of the atmosphere and stuff like that, and it doesn't, you know. I think you're right. First episode, it licks along at a fair old pace. I mean, it's good, but then I do wonder, you know, would like I say, would somebody that's very used to modern editing and being able to see what's on the screen, even though it's dark, you know,
maybe it needs a modern, updated episode edit with, you know, down to 70 minutes or something with new special effects and a kind of fast cut, dead. And some Murray Gold music or something.
The only other comment I have is that the headlights on Betty were appalling, and there was no way that passed the same.
No, that's true. My thought is actually, which I meant to say when the Doctor walks into the pub, actually, is the fact that Pertwee, or the Doctor, really, there's almost no distinction at this point, I think, but the Doctor is in a really pissed off, he's really annoyed at the start of that episode, and it goes because he's annoyed everybody goes off to Oldbourne without him anyway, and he's annoyed when he has to go there, and then he's annoyed when he turns up. So when he goes into the pub, he's ready to just vent, and then all the locals gang up on him. I love that. I think that's great because what it shows that the Doctor is not a one-note character. You know, we have it with Tom Baker in like the Brain of Morbius, where he sits down and sulks for a good 10 minutes at the start of episode 1, shaking his fist at the Time Lords. You know, it's the Doctor has many moods, and I love it. This is, you know, a good indicator of that.
Yeah.
No, that's true, and I thought the freezing effect was better in fact than what's the other?
It was quite good actually. Yeah.
Is it which is the one?
Planet of the
Daleks, isn't it? Where it gets frozen. They blatantly just stuck salt on his face. It's rubbish. Nobody's buying that.
Brilliant. Okay, right. So we're going to reconvene to watch. Have you got more stuff, Jeff?
No, well, I was just going to say, yes, we'll reconvene to watch.
We will reconvene
3 and 4, maybe 5 if we can. But we're going to Comic-Con, aren't we?
Oh yes, we are. We're going to Comic-Con. Yoo-hoo! My first Comic-Con. I've never been to one before. I'm a total noob, a total virgin when it comes to this kind of thing.
I haven't been for a very long time. My understanding is, based on my last experience, it's just a massive sales place that it's all
exactly.
about.
Yeah, it's just like an exhibition of stuff in it, but it should be stuff that I like. You know, I'm into like sci-fi, comics, games, and whatnot. So it should be fun, you know. And I've been to many other conventions where they're not fun. You know, stuff that I have to work in, like selling TVs and appliances and shit like that, and housewares and stuff. You know, and I've been to many of those and enjoyed it. So why not go to a convention which sells stuff that I actually like?
Yeah,
I think
Why
it'll
not?
be brilliant. I think it'll be brilliant. I think it'll be good. It sounds like there's a bunch of people going as well.
Yes, it should be, and most importantly, we'll be together. So, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that bit. Oh well, kind of it all, I suppose.
Every silver lining has a cloud, as they say.
Yeah.
Oh, it does indeed.
Oh,
I've practiced that move as well.
He's smashing stuff up now.
See how robust the toys are.
But you don't have to throw it over across the room. Mate.
I'm like a ninja. You see that move? Right, on that note, thank you if you're still listening.
Yes.
It's time to call it good night. We shall join you on our next episode.
Rubbish.
Rubbish hours. Right. Ta-ta for now, people, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks,
The
everyone.
Demons. Woo!
Rematerialize next week. Yes.
That's beautiful. Look at that hat. Where's the scarf? You got
The hat and the scarf.
scarf. There you go. Look at that.
Look at that.
Dr. Dewar in the
This is
house.
how most people prefer me.
I particularly like the look with the glasses as well. You know, it's very doctorish.
We have discussed some costumes, haven't we?
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
We did.
So we got to get on that. But I'm just going to leave that there for people.
Could do my Pertwee auto on.